Welcome back to Rare Elvis Photos, Elvis 2022 channel. This is the Elvis Special Edition. So if you have not already liked this video, please like it. And of course, after the video, please share it. Consider joining, becoming a member. And let's talk about some of the history of Elvis Presley on New Year's Eve. So, and first off, thank you for all the comments and likes and love that you've shown in 2023. And I hope that 2024 is your best year ever. So in 1954, Elvis, Bill, and Scotty were on the road, and they played the Red River Arsenal in New Boston, Texas. The very next year, in 1955, Elvis Presley's single, I Forgot to Remember, hit #1 on the U.S. country chart. Elvis and the Boys performed in Shreveport, Louisiana, at the Louisiana Hayride at 8 p.m. So songs that they performed were Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Suede Shoes, Peace in the Valley, and there were other acts that were on the bill as well. Jack Ford, Hoot and Curly, Buzz Busby, and the Bayou Boys. Jeanette Hicks, Worley Fairburn, Johnny Horton, George Jones, George Jones, Buddy Attaway, David Houston, Betty Amos, and Johnny Cash in the Tennessee 2. We're happy to be singing here with Elvis Presley. Now, in 1956, on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, it reported that Elvis, in the past few months, had merchandise that grossed over $22 million in sales. Now, Elvis ended 1956 with unprecedented national and international fame. So if you think about that $22 million in sales, in 2023, that would be approximately $225 million. On New Year's Eve, Elvis appeared on the Wink Martindale local TV show in Memphis with Dewey Phillips. So 1958 now, let's move to that date. Elvis received a book from Tom Diskin, and although much of the book didn't interest Elvis, it supported Elvis's instinct that great acting came from being natural. In 1959, Elvis wrote a letter to Tom Parker, and part of that had this, it said, "Other servicemen return to their hometown without ceremony and fanfare. I serve as they serve, and I'm proud to do it. Seeing the city of Memphis, my family, friends, and fans will be the most welcome sight in the world to me. I appreciate their kind gestures, and I know they will understand, and I'm glad you are in agreement with me on this. Best wishes to you and Mrs. Parker from Dad, Grandma, and myself." Now, 1960, the album Elvis Christmas album is recharted, and it hit number 33 in the United States on New Year's Eve. Now, in 1961, Elvis Presley had just finished shooting Kid Galahad on December 20th, but he didn't go back to Memphis. He decided to spend the holidays in Las Vegas. There's really no details of what activities was going on, but he and Joan Blackman had a thing for each other, and it's possible that they might have shared New Year's Eve together, but we don't really know. So Elvis Presley was in Las Vegas in 1961, and in 1962, Elvis started a New Year's Eve tradition that would continue all the way through the 60s. So he put on a fireworks display at Graceland. Elvis hosted a party at Memphis's Manhattan Club for over 200 friends, family, and fans. We do know that Priscilla had arrived from Germany a couple weeks earlier to spend the holidays. And then in 1963, in New Year's Eve, they spent that quietly watching movies at the Memphian Theater, and Elvis had rented that out for the evening. So in 1964, Elvis held another New Year's Eve bash in Memphis. He actually hosted 7 of them from 64 to 1970. Now, the first 3 were held at the Manhattan Club, and the next 2 at the Thunderbird Lounge. And the last 2 were at TJ's, which is a Memphis club where Elvis's buddy Alan Fortas was working. So guests at these parties enjoyed dinner that was catered and entertainment. Now, among the acts who performed at Elvis's New Year's Eve parties were B.J. Thomas, Well, I Just Can't Help Believing, and then Ronnie Millsap. Now, funny story, Ronnie Millsap is somebody that was at Gold Mountain Management, who was one of my managers back in the day in Nashville, and I met him, a great guy. So here's some more details from the years of 1963 to 1970. 1966, for example, Elvis's song If Every Day Was Like Christmas hit number 9 in the United Kingdom. Several horses were also bought on New Year's Eve as an addition to the stable. So in 66, Elvis Presley arrived at the Memphis Manhattan Club for his annual private Christmas party, but unable to find parking space, he returns back to Graceland. His guests, however, enjoyed the catering by Monty's again as the music Willie and the Mitchell band played. So Elvis didn't go to his New Year's Eve party in 1966. Isn't that interesting? 1967, the Bar-Kays and Billy Lee Riley were among the musical performers at Elvis's New Year's Eve party. It was held for the first time at the Memphis' own Thunderbird Lounge. Now, recently married Elvis and Priscilla danced several times, including once to Gershwin's Summertime, a song he personally loved and requested. So 1968, on New Year's Eve, the TV special Elvis aired on BBC Two-TV. For the second year in a row, Elvis's New Year's Eve party was at the Thunderbird Lounge. So 1969, the traditional Elvis New Year's Eve party in Memphis moved to the new club, like we talked about. Ronnie Milsap was the house act there. He headlined, but Mark James, the writer of Suspicious Minds, actually was called up to perform his own version of Suspicious Minds. 1970, now Elvis and the group went on a special tour at the FBI headquarters on New Year's Eve. Elvis expressed his admiration for J. Edgar Hoover to the FBI agent conducting the tour. Elvis also offered to serve in an undercover capacity in any way that he could. Now, on the agent's recommendation, Director Hoover sent Elvis a note on January 4th. Your generous comments concerning the Bureau and me are appreciated, and you may be well sure that we will keep you in mind your offer of assistance. Now, of course, on New Year's Eve, the group flew back to Memphis to make it in time. Now, they flew on a leased jet, and they made their annual New Year's Eve party at TJ's. And, of course, TJ's artist in residence at that point in time was Ronnie Milsap. Gotta love that. 1971. Elvis announced to his entourage that Priscilla will be divorcing him, simply saying, "She doesn't love me anymore." Now, in contrast to previous years, tonight's New Year's Eve celebration is held at Graceland, rather than a local club. Now, let's see if we can find out some more details about 1971. Obviously, that was a very embarrassing time for Elvis. That's really about what I know about 71. It was a private party held at Graceland. So at 1972, Elvis was still kind of in no mood to party. He was in the middle of a crash diet. He lost 25 pounds in preparation for the satellite TV concert in Hawaii, which happened on January 14th, 1973. So he stayed home. 1974, he was home because of health problems again. So he definitely had a lot of New Year's Eve parties through the 60s, but by 73 and 74, he really wasn't out much. Now, 1975. So he was actually on the road for the last two New Year's Eves of his life, in 1975 and in 1976. So in 75, Elvis appeared at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. There were 60,000 people shared the coming of the New Year's Eve and the New Year's Day with Elvis. So here's something that the Detroit News said the next day. It was Mike Mazza. Presley hit the 50-yard line stage at 11:10. Now women in glittery dresses and billowing pantsuits joins kids in a rush toward the stage. Lots of screaming. Everything flickered as a generation of flash cubes met oblivion. Almost midnight, a 10-second countdown ends in cheers. Spotlights swirl and balloons float down from the empty upper tier as Elvis and his fans sing Auld Lang Syne. On New Year's Eve of 76, which is his last New Year's Eve, Elvis was again on stage, this time at the Civic Center Arena in Pittsburgh. Now, you saw some pictures of that from earlier, as well as the advertisement. According to Mike Kalina of the Post-Gazette, a crowd of 16,000 were there as Presley bounded on stage 35 minutes before midnight. By the way, I hope you're enjoying that picture there. I really do not know. I have not really seen that picture before. It could be doctored. We need to do a little bit more research on it, but it's a cute picture, so I figured I would leave it in here while I'm telling you about New Year's Eve in 76. So 35 minutes before midnight, but you would have thought that the clock had struck 12 because he received an ear-deafening ovation punctured by thousands of blasts of flash bulbs and a patchwork of "We Love You, Elvis" signs hoisted aloft. Now, at the stroke of midnight, the house lights went up, and Elvis led the crowd in singing Auld Lang Syne. There were some brief hurrahs from the crowd, but in a few minutes, Elvis was back singing. Now, as we know, Elvis would not live to see another New Year's. But you know what? It's pretty awesome that he spent the last 2 years of his life on New Year's Eve with his fans. Like I said, 75 was a historic show. It was the first time that Elvis had performed on New Year's Eve since 1955. And it would actually be the highest attended concert ever for Elvis, with 60,000 people. So anyways, it set the world record for a single show by a solo artist, grossing $816,000. Elvis wore the rainfall suit with the original belt. So after that concert in 75, Elvis flew back to Memphis with his entourage, which included Vernon, country singer T.G. Shepherd, and his wife, Lisa Marie, and Linda Thompson, to celebrate the new year in his bedroom, watching tapes of old Monty Python shows. So anyhow, that's pretty dang cool. And an interesting note of that concert in 75 on New Year's is that Elvis ripped his pants singing Polk Salad Annie. He went off stage and he changed into the V-neck suit with puff sleeves. Now, J.D. Sumner and the Stamps Quartet performed Sweet Sweet Spirit, and just before the end of the show, the 60,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome were treated with an excerpt from Wooden Heart. Elvis Presley sang that from G.I. Blues, of course. Now, sad news at the end of 1976 New Year's Eve show, Vernon actually told Elvis about the death of his cousin Bobby Mann at 38 after taking an overdose of pills. Now, that's different than Billy Mann. Billy Mann is the one that sold the picture of Elvis in the casket to the Inquirer. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great New Year's Eve and a wonderful 2024. This is Rare Elvis Photos on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, and of course also known as Elvis 2022 channel. Happy New Year's!